President Cyril Ramaphosa and Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez have signed 3 memoranda of understanding. Sanchez is meeting with Ramaphosa at the Union Buildings in Pretoria to take forward diplomatic relations between the two countries. Now, for more on the story, let's cross to my colleague Natasha Phiri. Natasha, thank you so much for joining us. What is the significance of these memoranda of understanding that has been signed, and how is it going to change the relations between South Africa and Spain?
Well, very good afternoon to Diaba and of course our SABC viewers. Indeed, you're quite right. 3 MOUs were signed there between the two countries in fields of sports, cooperation of national libraries and cooperation in fields of industry 4.0. But actually to talk and to answer your question there, I'm joined by Sophie Mkwena, our foreign news editor, and of course she'll just delve in, the main tenets of that Q&A by both leaders. Sophie, quite an interesting engagement with members of the media. What were your main highlights?
I think for me, the issue of migration. We know that as a country right now, we are struggling with challenges of resources, and the South African public in particular getting restless because of the issue of migration. And the two leaders, the Spanish leader saying that they are dealing with that, people who are perishing in the Mediterranean, the young people leaving the continent, particularly from the Sahel region and other areas from Sub-Sahara and West Africa in particular. And therefore saying that this should not be seen as a negative thing, but rather we must see this as a positive thing, because there's a lot that you can get from people from other countries in terms of skills, but they are dealing with that. And President Ramaphosa emphasizing how critical that matter of migration is, particularly at this critical time where our economy is not doing well. He went as far as making an example of the Zimbabweans who are in the country, and also calling on the international community to look at lifting sanctions against those who are experiencing sanctions in Zimbabwe. But you'll find another group in Zimbabwe saying that these are targeted sanctions, and those international or the major countries that have imposed sanctions on Zimbabwe, they are saying it's targeted sanctions, not necessarily targeting ordinary Zimbabweans. But the president was quite clear that in line with the African position, that the sanctions must go. But this one is going to cause a heated debate, I think, with people in Zimbabwe. And of course, the issue of terrorism.
Definitely. I was just talking about that off air, the issue of USA, which is quite a contentious one as well.
Yes, the president spoke about yesterday they were caught off guard in terms of the embassy making that alert or issuing that alert, posting that alert on their website. Very aggrieved. The tone was clear that they are not happy. I'm sure they did engage the American officials and the counterparts in terms of how this matter was communicated, because it did affect the country in terms of people panicking on what is happening. But for me, the critical issue is, what is South Africa doing? It is not even clear yet whether this is not true. When you look at what he said around the issue of Cabo Delgado, and we know that these groups are really becoming a problem on the continent. We spoke about the Sahel and Mozambique, and therefore I think it's something that we can't take it light as a country, but there's a better way of communicating such issues.
Another sector that they also brought up was that of citrus. We know that Spain is the largest producer of citrus, followed by South Africa, which is also the second largest producer. And of course, that sector employs over 130,000, people. Both presidents saying that, the issue of South Africa exporting citrus needs to actually be solved.
Yeah, I think this matter is going to dominate the meeting with business from both sides. South Africa and Spain have agreed that they are going to remove those impediments, or they will continuously engage on how to remove those impediments. But you have to also convince the European Union, and the president pointed out that he spoke to the president of the EU about this matter. You also have to engage the WTO in terms of these impediments. I mean, protection countries that use this kind of methods, they do affect trade between countries. And South Africa is very aggrieved because indeed we are not able to export our products. When they get there, there's a long process to approve and process and give go ahead to suppliers, and therefore you might even have challenges. And I think that is a very important issue. But I think more clarity at the talks between both countries in terms of business, because I am sure that those who are in that sector will be represented there.
Definitely. Sophie, thank you so much for your time. Diaba also spoke about coalition governments. And of course, before you crossed to us, I heard there that briefing by the mayor of Johannesburg, Mpopalads, and the president's just really saying there that we could actually take stock from Spain, because remember, the prime minister of Spain had actually formed a coalition government. So these are just the interesting interactions that were raised by both leaders from both countries. With that said, it's a wrap from Team SABC here from Pretoria and the Citadel of Power. It's back to you in studio.
Thank you so much, Natasha. She's joined there by foreign editor Sophie Mugwena. Thank you so much, colleagues.